Well, in your church, you undoubtedly have various things going on at different times. And the challenge, of course, is always keeping in front of your people what you're actually doing. And so today on Practical Church Planting, we're going to share with you 6 ways to keep your church events in front of your people.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting. My name is Brian Androsian, and with me is Dylan Dodson. And today we're going to give you 6 ways to spread the word about events.
And this episode is brought to you by missionsupport.com. Mission Support helps you knows that you want to be effective in ministry, but if you're like most pastors, you probably feel like you never have enough time, energy, or expertise to get everything done. I know a lot of people can relate to that. So Mission Support comes alongside pastors and ministry leaders like you as a guide to provide the expertise to do the things you don't know how to do and to give you back the time you desperately need. And so whether it's bookkeeping, SEO, payroll, websites, or any of their other services, talk with a guide today at missionsupport.com and go from feeling scattered to focused on your mission. It's possible to love being a pastor again. So again, check out missionsupport.com for more information and to see all the things that might be tying you up so that you can focus on the work of ministry. Now today, we're talking about different ways to spread our word about events. We've done an episode somewhat recently about how to get more signups, but this one's not necessarily how to get people to sign up for things, but just how to let people know that things are happening. And as always, we don't like to do the generic unhelpful things, so we're not going to include like saying it from the church announcements. Like that's
right.
obvious. These are things that you may or may not know, and also how we do them. So here we go. Number 1 is Facebook events. Now, when we say Facebook events, I want to say a couple things. One, you don't need to make an event for every single thing that you do. That's not really helpful. More for us, we make events for things that we want people to know about, and they're kind of like general to anybody. So, for example, we don't. So some people, especially in the beginning, like they'll do. I noticed church plants will do a Facebook event for every single one of their Sunday services, and it's like that's so overkill. I get the first one, or if you do like a Facebook event for. Like for us, we do once a quarter. We do our Discover Lunch, where we talk about New City. Like we wouldn't do a Facebook event for that because that's not like that's a very specific thing that the average person's not gonna come to on Facebook. Like so, when we say Facebook event, we don't mean every single thing that you do, particularly if it's a smaller thing or if it's a thing that not many people will come, even if it's open to everyone. So, for example. They're recording this tonight. We're doing a money class. We have someone who every so often teaches really basics about money. It's really helpful. We don't create a Facebook event for that just because while it's open to everyone, not many people are going to respond.
Yeah.
And having an event with like 3 people say that they're going is actually a detriment.
Tough.
But things like our trunk or treat, we do that. Or when we do our like quarterly trivia nights, we'll do that. Or we're doing a chili cook-off in November. So we'll do a Facebook event for that. It's like people... a good amount of people may come to this sort of thing, and it's like a fun thing, and it's not like a church serve or I don't know if that makes sense, a church training for something like that.
Right, yeah.
Now, with Facebook events, a couple things to keep in mind. Just because you post an event, not many people are actually going to see it, therefore say they're going or not. So what we do is we actually tell our people to say that they're going. So like on Trunk or Treat, for example, we've got a Facebook group that people our church are part of. Like we'll tell people to say that you're coming because when more people say they're going or they're interested, it shows it to more people. Or what I'll do when I make these events is I will go and invite like all our church people, like personally. I'll go into the event and I'll invite them. Because if you just make it, people aren't going to see it. And then the third thing, when it comes to maybe doing ads or boosting events, we do that for like Trunk or we don't do that for everything, but like Trunk or Treat, stuff like that we will do. As I think we mentioned on the last episode as well, if you do that, please don't just target based on interest, but also on geography. They've got to be close to your church. Otherwise, you're spending money that's just irrelevant. And so when we say Facebook events, we don't just mean make them, but also like personally invite people. If you're going to boost them, make sure you boost them geographically and tell people that they need to respond to them so that it shows in more people's feeds.
And as a side note, or in addition, when you're doing Facebook ads and targeting specific areas, also make sure to have an end date. I'm right now getting, because I clicked on the comments because I was curious, so now I'm getting it over and over. But I don't even know what company is, some company, but they're advertising for their Prime Day deals, and Prime Day is done. And so, and every comment's like, why am I getting this after Prime Day? But so make sure you have an end date to it as well, or else you're just wasting money. But yeah, Facebook event, it helps you. It gives your people an easy way to invite people as well. So you can tell your people that you invite, or people in the church, like, hey, if you want someone to come, invite them to the Facebook event. And it's a much easier invite for people, especially if it's, I mean, obviously it might be at the church or it might be a churchy related thing and they might feel uncomfortable actually like having a conversation with someone and inviting them to it.
Yeah.
But it's an easy way to invite someone. All they gotta do is click the invite, and it usually has the information in it. So like when we do trivia nights, the person doesn't have to sit there and like unload all the information about what the topic is and when it is and all these things. It makes for a super easy invite for people. And so obviously unless you're boosting it or doing ads, it's a free thing to do, and it's just a very easy thing to do. And I would say I would encourage you not to get too overly encouraged or discouraged by the amount of people that respond to it. Because obviously, if you're not inviting people to it, people are not going to respond. People aren't going to see it, or it'll pop up once and they'll miss it, and then they'll never see it again. So you need to invite people to it. But also, there's a lot of people that come to things that are just not responding to things, or just not on Facebook, or ignore it, or for whatever reason. So obviously, if you're doing it continually and you see a pattern, then maybe it's not the best thing to do a Facebook event for. But especially as if you're kind of trying it for the first few times and you don't see a lot of responders, don't get discouraged thinking no one's going to show up to this event, because it may not directly correlate with who's actually coming.
Yeah, that's a good point. You typically have more people come than will respond on Facebook, because not everyone's on Facebook. People don't see this stuff. They don't respond even if they're coming. But making a Facebook event also, it's helpful because sometimes people will share it as well. So for us, this is more of it's like an advertising thing. We don't really expect it to be an accurate number of who's showing up, but it's a way to get it in front of people. But again, you don't want to do this if you do an event like every single month, for example, that's probably not good, because people will start to ignore it. And again, if it says like 2 people are coming, then people are going to click on the event and be like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Why would I go to that? No one's coming to it.
Yeah, so that is true.
It's not just making the Facebook event. It's telling people about it, inviting them to respond personally on Facebook, and just telling them, like, hey, when you click interested or going, it shows up on more people's feeds. And so that's a way to let people know something's coming up.
Yep.
Number 2, upcoming events on the homepage of your website. This is something that very few churches I hardly ever see churches do it.
Yeah.
Now, there might be reasons for this. Like if you're a large church, you don't need to do something like this.
Right.
But if you're listening to this, you're probably not a large church. You're probably not a mega church. And so this, one of the benefits of a smaller church is community is easier to create environments where community happens. So a larger church, you have to be really more intentional about it. And so an easy way to do this is to put the events on your homepage. And here's why this is important, because the number one visitor to your website is new people. Your church people they'll never go to their website hardly ever, unless they're like going to give or to look something up like in particular, but they're not just like browsing around.
Yeah.
And we use the Church Co. And not long story short, side note, if you go to the churchco.com/practical, you can get 40% off your first 2 years. So check them out. We've used them for a long time. Highly recommend them. And our website's not the most amazing thing ever, but if you want to see what this looks like, you can go to newcityrdu.com. It's our website. And one of their page builder blocks, and you can do this, on other websites as well, it has your upcoming events. And so we only put events on our website if they're a month or less out, but it also, like when the event is done, it automatically takes it off the homepage.
Yeah.
So we put the page on there. They can click on it and get more, details about the event. But after the event passes, I don't have to go and delete the page or anything, because it just goes off the homepage. And unless you actually know the specific URL, you're not going to it anyway. And so I just leave it, and then I'll update the graphic and stuff if we do a similar event like that again in the future. But it's on our homepage, and it's always a couple of things coming up. And again, newcityrdu.com, if you want to see what it looks like. It's not on the top. Again, the top is, a welcome thing, address, times, whatever. You got to scroll a tiny bit down, and you can see our upcoming events. And so whatever your website builder is, I would recommend, you don't need to have all the details. On ours, it's just the title and a picture, and they can click on it, and a date. But if you do have something that's not automatic like us, please, please, please make sure you take it off. You need to put it on your task list or whatever with a due date on there saying, remove this right away. Because just like the Facebook ads that we all see that are expired, it also looks really like you're not on top of your things. If you see this a lot, churches like for Christmas services and stuff, they'll put that on their homepage and then they'll leave it. And it's January, and it's like, why is this still up here? And so putting upcoming events on your homepage is a really helpful thing, because that is where new people are going.
And I mean, the fact of the matter is we're in a day and age where we're past the day and age where there's, not to sound mean, but like excuses for leaving things up. Things don't have to be left up to an IT person to manage, even if you don't have like the easiest website builder in the world. If it's that convoluted that you can't figure it out, then you probably should be looking at switching to something else.
Yeah.
But there's just no reason to have it left up anymore. And like, I don't want to sound too harsh. Like, I get things happen in the world, whatever. But like, in my mind, if I'm ever looking at a church website, that's like, I obviously am not going there looking for that, but that's like one of the number one things I see that's like, it just looks like not just you're not on top of your website, but it just looks like there's probably a lot of things that are falling through the cracks, and probably a lot of things that are kind of being left behind and things like that. Because I know that's a very easy thing to edit. And so if that's really difficult for you, obviously if that's not your skill set, maybe you figure out volunteer someone who can. But also, it's probably the better way to do it is look at a website builder that you can figure out. Because if it's completely left out of your hands, then it's just a lot harder for you to manage, especially as a small church.
Yeah.
When you get larger, that's a different story. But like as a small church, it's just a very easy thing to take care of, and just to set a reminder of the weekend it happens, get rid of it. And yeah, the homepage is the place for only new people only, and so it's a good place to actually have things listed. But it's a total deterrent or detriment if you just have old events listed there, because no one's going to look through the old ones to find the new ones.
Yep. So upcoming events on your homepage, again, we use the Church Co. There's a lot of other websites as well, but they make it really simple. But please, if it's not automatically taken off, make sure you take it off. But this is something that a lot of churches miss. And I want to say, doing this is not going to make everybody come to it. It's just another way to let people know that things are happening.
Yep.
Number 3, your small group leader guide. So however we call them community groups, whatever you call them, missional communities, circles, cell groups,
Whatever.
We always, we write ours every week. They're sermon-based, which doesn't really matter for this, but we always include a couple of upcoming things in our group leader guides that the group's leaders tell people. And it's just another small way to get things in front of people. Again, for us, we never put anything on there that's more than a month out, because again, after a while, people just kind of stop listening. And we don't do more than like 2 or 3, which typically we don't have that many things coming within a month.
Right.
And we try to keep them general to everybody unless it's something we want people to know about, even if they're not all going to go. But yeah, if you have an event coming up, even if like for us, like our Discover, for example, our Discover lunch, we put those in all the leader guides so people know. Even though most people in our group have probably been to one, not everyone has.
Yep.
And it reminds people that have been coming for a while that haven't been to one to come. But to put them in the group leader guide, however you do your groups, it's the first thing that they do for us. And we have an episode, gosh, I don't know, sometime within the last couple months on how we actually specifically structure our community group leader guides. And even in our Practical Church Planning Facebook group, I posted like a PDF you can search and you can see how we write them.
Yep.
But for us, it's announcements, 2 little icebreaker, fun discussion things, and the guide. And so that's what we recommend. Now, if your church if you don't like send out group leader guides and they're everyone does their own thing, you can include them in the email, but people might forget. I mean, for us, everyone uses the leader guide and it's like right in front of them, whether they print it out or they use an iPad or their phone or whatever. Like it's on the thing that they're actually reading everything else. And so if you make something that people are reading, make sure that it's on the thing that they're reading, not just in the email, because they'll probably forget it unless it's like literally in front of them as they're doing the group thing.
Yeah, we talked about how we're not going to spend time talking about doing this during like church announcements time, because we assume that that's assumed. But when it comes to like the announcement portions of your service, if people have been coming long enough, it's very easy for people to tune that part out, because it's just the way it is. Like people just are used to hearing church announcements, and so you can give announcement from stage and it may fall on some deaf ears. But when you have just like a very small captive group in a community group or a small group, then it's much easier for people to kind of hear what you're saying. And we're given the same announcements. It might be the exact same announcement that they heard on Sunday from stage, but when it's just given to a room of 10 people or 12 or 8 or whatever people, then and there's nothing else really going on, then it's much easier for people to kind of internalize what you're saying. And so we don't expect the group leaders to get people to sign up for things or like create an action with them right there, unless like there's something very specific that we need. But we just want them to inform them, and it allows people to ask questions back if they feel comfortable, if the group leader is able to answer. But also, if it's like something that a group leader has gone to, we encourage them to tell people why they should go. If this is a Discover New City, like our partnership or membership class, and you have people in your group that aren't, then encourage them to, or tell them why this is important, or if it's a trivia or like some fun event and you've gone to in the past, then actually tell them that this is fun. Don't just like necessarily read it off the page. And so it's just one of the things in the list, but it helps people. I don't know. I think it helps them hear it a little bit more than when they hear it on Sundays.
Yeah, and for this, it's like 2 minutes, so you can't go into a lot of detail. It's just, for us, it's just letting them know. Sometimes it's like to sign up to serve, whatever, they can email or they can go to this URL. I don't really expect them to do that. We just say it, put it in the leader guide so they can know. But for us, it's really just for them to know that it's happening and to remind them.
Yep.
So that was number 3. Number 4, an all church text. So there's different programs that do this: Text and Church, ClearStream, which we've recently mentioned how we've switched. They're both fine, but we're using ClearStream now. And so we have, like, whenever somebody fills out a Connect card, we get their email and their phone number, and they get the follow up thing. But we also put them in our all text church notifications, as well as our, we send out a weekly email as well. So we also put their email in there. But we put all of them in there, and then we text people. But we do this very rarely, like maybe once, maybe twice a month. Like if trunk or treat's coming up, or trivia night, or it's like something that's like relevant to everybody. But we really don't do it very often, because if you do it a lot, people will opt out, and then that's not helpful.
Yep.
And so we have like a screen, one of our rotating slides on Sunday morning before and after service, that says they can text join to whatever number to join. But most people don't do that. Most people only do it if you manually add them. So, and anytime you get a new, a phone number, just put it in there. People can opt out whenever. But we do an all church text, typically like 2-ish days before the event. So that, again, it's just another reminder that it's coming up. So this one's pretty simple. Again, you have to pay for this software, but they're all relatively cheap. And again, for follow-up purposes and all that sort of stuff, it's really worth paying for stuff like this. But in all church text, again, you don't do this for everything, but it's just if it's relevant to the entire church, that's when you want to send those out.
Yeah, and like you said, relevant to the entire church, but not too often. Obviously, you're not sending it out about necessarily about like your membership class or that church service or whatever. But it's a couple times a month, and it's infrequent enough that people notice it, but frequent enough that people like recognize the number or open it and don't think it's spam. But it's a super easy way to do it. And one thing we didn't mention, but it's kind of goes along, or you mentioned in passing, but it goes along with things that are assumed, is putting it in newsletter as well. Like it goes out in a our weekly email. Hopefully people are doing that as well. But the all church text is just an easy, you type it up and it goes out. I don't know. There's not much to add. It's an eeasy thing to do, and I think it helps a lot of people see it.
Yeah, one tip with that, make sure you always include the name of your church in the message so people know who it's from. Good so I don't know if we're doing like a trunk or treat, which we're doing in a couple weeks. We'll see something about like trunk or treat at New City Church is happening, whatever, or I don't know, whatever event. Just make sure the name is in the text, because people won't know what this is. Or even if you have previous text, they're not going to scroll up. It's going to be spam. And so make sure your church name is somehow in the text so that people know who this is coming from.
And I don't know if you do this on purpose, but I've noticed it's generally at within the first few words of the text too, so that when you just see a preview of a text, you know exactly what it is. I mean, granted, you're probably not just if you see any text, you're probably going to open it in some capacity. But if it's right there, then you know it's from the church. And I mean, I don't think many people really save the number, so it's really helpful. Like I've never saved the number, and I've had the messages from the beginning, but it just helps you know exactly, or like right off the bat, what it is, and don't just assume it's spam.
Yep. So do an all church text. Number 5, an Instagram post. Now let me explain why this is here. We don't post a lot of our events on Instagram or Facebook or social media, just because not everyone sees it, and they're not typically very engaging. Yeah. And so if people don't like or comment on them, then they're going to show even less of your stuff. So this is, generally speaking, not a place that we post our events. So I know this is kind of ironic this putting here. Now, if it's a big event like a trunk or treat or the Christmas service, something that's like pretty big, you're probably going to have a decent size, then we do put it on the, we will post about it. Yeah. Now, what I mean by Instagram post is, if you just do like a story of trunk or treat, for example, you can't reshare story. Like people can't reshare stories on their own stories on Instagram unless they're tagged, which you're not going to tag everybody. If you do a post, so if we do like our trunk or treat graphic, for example, on Instagram as a post, we can then share it as our own story, and other people can also share the post in their stories. Right. So this is a little bit of a advanced pro tip. Facebook is, obviously people can comment, like, and share any kind of post on Facebook. But even then, we don't post most of our events on Facebook either, unless it's a Facebook event. That's different. But like an actual dedicated post, because they get very few engagement, very few likes, and then it makes, Facebook, who owns Instagram as well, show your stuff less to everyone else, which they already throttle it quite a lot if you're a page. And so like for us, again, Instagram will post trunk or treat or our Christmas service, something that's pretty, we want everyone to know about it. And then I'll then share it on our New Cities Instagram, because that's where people more people will probably see the story than the actual post. And then, but they can click on it and then they can share it themselves, which is, I've seen that's something that people do. So again, if you only post about it on a story, just know that people can't reshare it. So if it's a big event, you don't want to do this very often because you're not going to get much engagement. it's always like, I mean, it's funny. It's all relative, right? But like we get like less than 10 likes anytime we post about an event. It's just like no one really cares. And if you like it, it's like if you like the event, you liking the picture, it's like it's not really to say unless it's like pictures of people. That's different. But if it's like a picture of the graphic of the event, nobody really cares. But you can do that and then post it on your story, and then people can repost it if it's an actual post.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's kind of like double dipping. Like instead of
Yeah.
doing just posting on your story, you can have it there so other people can, and then you can share it to your own story. So you can get like best of both worlds doing it that way.
So sometimes we'll share like events coming up in the church just in our stories because they don't like you're not really seeing how people engage with them or just there. But if it's like a big thing, we'll post it on our post and then reshare it as a story so that other people can also share it.
Yeah,
as well.
Exactly. I mean, I think not posting every event is a big. I think that's a very common. I think it's a common thing that people do because it's an easy thing.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm looking for social media content and then post the event that's coming up because I want people to know about it. But like you said, it can definitely be detrimental to the rest of everything else you post if it's not something that gets much engagement. So I would definitely caution against posting every single event that comes up.
So Instagram posts that can then be shared as a story, and then last but not least,
Most importantly, actually.
oh wow, Brian thinks this
I
is the
would
most
argue.
important. Your bathroom graphic,
That's
or
right.
whatever you want to call it. We call that. It's very uninteresting. But basically, we have little posters, and we update them pretty much every week, unless maybe twice. We might leave it for 2 weeks if nothing's changed. Where we have our upcoming events, and how we do this is we take the little sign holders, little plastic clear sign holders, and just print a normal piece of paper. And typically no more than 3. We do typically 3 upcoming events and a random fact.
Yep.
So that people are like, oh, at least I'll read the random fact every week when I go to the bathroom, and then maybe I'll look at these other ones.
Yep.
Anything more than 3, you can gets kind of cluttered. And if you just have 2 things or 1 thing, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
But just upcoming events, and it's just like literally the name of the event, the date, the time, and we don't do a lot of explaining more detail about that because it's just to let people know. And if there's a sign up for it, you will say go to newcityrdu.com/whatever. If there's something for them to sign up for, again, I don't really think they're going to do that there, but it's more so to remind them.
Kind of hope they don't.
That it's happening. So we'll post, and this is what we'll post everything. Or pretty much everything. So like Discover classes, any big event, like when our community groups are launching again for those couple of weeks, or if we're doing a serve push, that'll be on there every week. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they're specific for men and women, we have a men and women's restroom, as most places do. I mean, I guess it's different if it's like at our original space, we had a couple bathrooms, but they were single. There was just one toilet, so men and women used it. But now they're separate, and so if there's something specifically for the women or specifically for the men, we'll make 2 different ones, and we'll put one for the men to know about because there's no reason for it to be in the women's restroom.
Yep.
But we just put them on the wall. So on the urinal, it's like facing the urinal, and the stalls, it's on the stall door. So when you're sitting, you see it.
Okay.
And we have 3 bathrooms in each bathroom.
Stalls.
3 stalls,
what you're saying?
toilets,
Yeah.
whatever in each one. So we have 6 total. We have 3 in each bathroom. And so I put one on every stall door and on urinal and on every wall. So it's like right in their face.
Yep.
And it's a small thing. I mean, if you don't go to the bathroom, obviously you're not going to see it. But if you do go to the bathroom, you're going to see it because it's like right in front of you. And it's just another really easy way to keep things in front of your people.
And I would say the most important part is adding the fun fact at the end. I've had so many people, like countless people, reference that to me over however long we've done this. And I think I've had a lot of people assume that I do it because I do trivia, so like kind of assume it goes together. And I'll tell them I don't actually make it. I have no idea what it is. I look forward to it every week, but I've had so many people ask me about it because they look for that, but then they see everything else, and they're not studying it, but there's not much else to do. And so people are going to be looking right at it. And interestingly, I heard this come up on, I think it was another podcast or something like that at some point recently, and they were talking about this, and they basically asked if they're saying that having it on a stall door is too intimate. They're like, we'll put it on the urinal, but stall door.
Who said this?
It was on a podcast. I don't remember which
Wow.
one, but they're like on a stall door. Like I don't want anyone in there.
What's the
I don't want in
difference?
there. I don't know. I have no idea. But we put it on the stall door. We put it
That doesn't make any sense.
I do not know. Like feels like someone's in there with me or something. I don't know, but we disagree.
Wow.
But it's obviously I don't literally think it's more important than the others, but like that's like the one that if people are going there, they are gonna see it, and it's like it's like 100% engagement or 100% viewership or whatever if they're going there. So it's a very easy thing, especially if you're portable, you might have to think about it. But if you're not portable, if you have your own space, super easy thing to do, and everyone's gonna see it.
And we don't put any graphics or images on there. I think it's just green. It's a white piece of paper with green text.
Yep.
And that's all it is. The random fact is a sentence or less. It is funny because people will mention it, and sometimes if like the graphic isn't changed for 2 weeks, there's been times people are like, you didn't change the thing.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we didn't change the the whole thing was the same.
Yeah, there's no new
But
events.
people actually notice that, and they think it's funny. So putting a really quick random fact on there. Now again, if you're portable, what you could do is you could get one of those those plastic sign holders that you can sit like on the counter
Yeah,
and
like
put
at
them
the sink.
Yeah, at the sink and put them there. Or if there's multiple sinks, you could put like two.
Yep.
And do it that way. That might be an easier way to do it. But yeah, we do these every week. People see them, and it's just a really quick, simple way that again a lot of people probably aren't thinking of doing. Again, you don't want to put graphics on this. You don't want to make it really busy. It's just literally a couple quick things with a random fact because at least they're trained to want to look at it when they go in there if
For
they
sure.
see that. And people have commented on it. So
They sure have. Yep.
I would also put them in the stall doors if you're going to
I
put
would
them
as
in there.
well. Yep.
Just
Agreed.
do it.
Why not?
So those are 6 ways to spread the word about events at your church. Again, the goal is never to spam people, but we want to get it as in many places as possible that seems unobtrusive or it doesn't seem like why are you telling me this sort of thing. And so Facebook events, upcoming events on their webpage, on your homepage, your website, small group leader guides, your church text, Instagram posts, and bathroom graphics are maybe some of the not as known ways that you can do that.
Exactly.
So, hey, I think that was a nice quick episode, but hopefully super practical. Again, check out missionsupport.com. If you've got a lot of stuff going on and you feel overwhelmed, they've got a host of ways that they can help you with really, really good prices. So missionsupport.com. You can also check out practicalplanting.com, our website, a lot of free resources. We've got a free church planting social media guide, which somebody in our group posted about last week. They're
They
like,
did.
this is awesome.
Yeah.
They did advertising for us. So don't take our word for it. And speaking of the group, if you're not a part of it yet, Facebook Practical Church Planting Group. We're almost at 2,000 members, and so people post a lot and get a lot of questions. And check that out if you have not.
Yep.
And that's it for this week. We'll be with you next week on Practical Church Planting.